Signing day on the University of Alabama campus. Excitement is in the air as Nick Saban lands another star-studded group. Coming up on this special edition of Tider Insider TV, we'll talk about the recruits that put pen to paper on their letter of intent for the Crimson Tide. Also, we'll go live to the Malmore Athletic Building where Nick Saban will address the media. His press conference live and in its entirety. The Tider Insider TV Signing Day special starts now.
Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
The Zone at Bryant-Denny Stadium, where Red Elephant Club members will gather in a short while to celebrate the class of 2012, a class that once again ranks near the top of the college football recruiting rankings. And we are just across the field in Bryant-Denny Stadium, coming to you from the television booth in the press box. Good afternoon and welcome in to Tider Insider TV Signing Day Special, brought to you by Your Way Furniture, where customer satisfaction is always our #1 priority. Alongside Tider Insider TV's and TiderInsider.com's Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. We'll run down the top players in this star-studded class coming up. But first, the news of the day. And Bama, Rodney, had 2 late pickups. They landed 2 big defensive linemen on this signing day. Let's start with a guy out of Lynchburg, Virginia, Corin Curvin. And Rod, I think you were the first person that does recruiting that follows Alabama that had any insight into Corin Curvin possibly being a part of this class. He is a guy that, man, he's got all the measurables, 6'4", about 270 pounds, just turned 17 years old. He's young, he's athletic. He may be a little bit of a project in terms of his best football is in front of him, but this is a guy that, man, was a big pickup.
Yeah, Gary, and again, you look at a kid that just turned 17 years old on December the 10th, and, you know, a young guy, a guy that's going to fill out quite a bit. And, you know, when you look at him, Gary, he's already 285. He's growing. He's almost 6'5", and, you know, one of the outstanding prospects in the country. Chose Alabama over Virginia Tech and Tennessee. All
right, Corin Curvin. You had, again, had an inclination that might happen. You put it out on your crystal ball last night. Another guy that you told me some time ago, don't be surprised if Dalvin Tomlinson is a part of this class. But all through the recruiting process, it looked like Georgia Tech was the team to beat. But this morning, live on Atlanta television, Dalvin Tomlinson, 6'1", 270 pounds, a 3-time Georgia State wrestling heavyweight champion, picked the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, you know, Gary, I think Dalvin had made up his mind quite a while back that he was going to Alabama, and you look at him, he's, as you mentioned, a 3-time heavyweight state champion. He understands leverage and what it means to play with it, and, you know, I think he's going to be an outstanding player, Gary, because not only is he a talented athlete, but he is a great kid, and I think he has the mentality part of it down really well.
All right, those were 2 guys that weren't previously committed. They announced this morning and went ahead and signed. Basically, the rest of the class went as expected. It looks like Nick Saban has won his 2nd national championship in less than a month. He won it on the field at the Superdome, and now the Tides class is rated near the top, or by most experts so far, at the top of the recruiting rankings. Rivals, 24/7 Sports, and ESPN all have Bama #1. Scout has the Tide at #2. Bottom line, though, this is another excellent group that Nick Saban has reeled in, Rodney, and I hate to ask you to compare classes, but just since Coach Saban's gotten here, 2007, you know, was just, he didn't have a full, you know, season to recruit, obviously took over late, but 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, now 2012, all highly rated classes. How does this one rate compared to some of the others? I guess it starts with 2008.
Well,
that was a phenomenal
class.
That
will always be the measuring stick, that 2008 class, when you look at the Julio and Mark Ingram class. And, you know, certainly a great class, produced a lot of wins, obviously. But when you look at this class, Gary, I mean, you know, again, they haven't had an opportunity to get on the field, so you really hate to compare them. But athletically, coming out of high school, you would have to say top to bottom, this is probably the best class Nick Saban has signed since he's been here. Now, does that mean they're going to have the same kind of success? Does that mean they're going to be as good of football players when all is said and done? That remains to be seen. You know, a lot of that's going to depend on the players, but they're going to have the opportunity to develop just as those other players did in that 2008 class. And when you look at it again athletically, I think this class, top to bottom, is probably better than that one.
That's saying something. We talked about Curvin. We talked about Tomlinson coming in late, committing and signing this morning. Let's talk about some of the headliners of this class that we've known about for a while, and a guy that we expect to make an immediate impact, Louisiana safety Landon Collins. However, not everyone from the Collins family has been supportive of his decision. You've heard about his mom and what else happened with that. Let's go back to his announcement at the Under Armour game, and here's what his mom thought about his commitment.
Landon Collins, obviously
I feel this LSU is a better place for him to be. LSU Tigers, #1. Go Tigers.
And there was more when allegations arose that Nick Saban was giving Collins' girlfriend a job in the recruiting office at Alabama. But that turned out to be much ado about nothing. Collins did sign today with Alabama, as expected, even though some people tried to make it look like it was an ongoing battle. Really, this had been settled for a while. And, Rodney, to me, and I want to get your thoughts, was all this overblown with Collins and his mom?
Well, I think when you look at, was he coming to Alabama, that part of it was overblown. There's no question about that. Again, I understand the difficulty of getting a player out of the state of Louisiana. For Alabama, it's probably one of the most difficult things to do because you know as well as I do, Gary, LSU and the intensity of that rivalry and the recruiting there, and also Nick Saban being involved in it just makes it a very difficult thing to do when you're talking about the #1 player in that state and one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 players in the country in Landon Collins. But again, Landon said he's been pretty much had his mind made up the last 2 years, and we knew that he was solidly committed coming down the stretch. And I think some of this was overblown in terms of that he may switch. There was never any indication that Landon Collins would switch. It was always an indication that he was very firm in his commitment to Alabama.
Still exciting for Alabama fans, though, at that press conference when he and a bunch of his teammates signed today down in Louisiana, and he indeed put pen to paper for Alabama. Let's talk about him as a football player. Really got all the attributes you look for in a safety. 5-star rating by everybody. He's expected to play defense in college, as we said, as a safety. In high school, though, as a running back, he rushed for over 1,200 yards and 20 touchdowns. So he's a good all-around football player, but he will punish you in that secondary. And not just a hitter, he's got great ball skills as well.
Well, I think, Gary, if you talk to a lot of people and you watch Landon Collins a little bit, you kind of get the idea and come up to the conclusion that you're talking about a Mark Barron, but a little bit better athlete, maybe a little faster, maybe even better in coverage than Mark Barron was. But, again, you hate to compare players, but just to kind of give a picture of him, that's Landon Collins. He's certainly a very, very talented prospect.
All right, let me find out where we're at right here, Rod. Make sure I'm on the right page. I am. Still to come on TITV's Signing Day Special. We'll talk about those other big-name recruits, including Mr. Football. T.J. Yeldon is considered by many to be the top recruit in the state. He was named Alabama's Mr. Football a few weeks back. We'll talk with him and much more. You're watching the Tider Insider TV Signing Day Special presented by Your Way Furniture. Stay with us. We're coming back with more right after this.